Come on, Cameron. Let's read more stories about your friend Thomas.
All right. Just give me a moment, Miku. I'll go get it. Alright, here's our next set of stories for tonight. In this set of stories, we'll be reading about the one and only Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh boy.
Excited, aren't you, Miku?
Yes, I am, Cameron. I can't wait to hear the stories of your friends' adventures.
I'm sure you'll like them very much. So, our stories for tonight are Thomas and Gordon, Thomas's Train, Thomas and the Freight Cars, and finally, Thomas and the Breakdown Train. So, let's begin. Our first story is Thomas and Gordon. This will introduce you to my favorite number one engine.
Oh boy, I'm so excited.
Oh, wait a second. I forgot something.
What is it, Cameron?
I forgot to read you something that Mr. Audrey told his son Christopher, which actually talks about Thomas himself. And this is what it says.
Dear Christopher, here's your friend Thomas the Tank Engine. He wanted to come out of his station yard and see the world. These stories tell you how he did it. I hope you will like them because you helped me to make them. Your loving Daddy.
How sweet.
It certainly is, Miku. Now with that out of the way, let's get on with the story. Thomas was a tank engine who lived at a big station. He had 6 small wheels, a short stumpy funnel, a short stumpy boiler, and a short stumpy dome. He was a fussy little engine, always pulling coaches about. He pulled them to the station, ready for the big engines to take out on long journeys. And when trains came in, and the people had got out, he would pull the empty coaches away so that the big engines can go and rest. He was a cheeky little engine, too. He thought no engine worked as hard as he did, so he used to play tricks on them.
Oh, like what?
Well, he liked best of all to come quietly beside a big engine, dozing on a siding, and make them jump.
How so?
Like this. Beep, 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 beep.
Oh my goodness.
Wake up, lazy bones, he would whistle. Why don't you work hard like me? Then he would laugh rudely and run away to find some more coaches.
Why, you sure did got me good with that. You made me jump like how he did with the bigger engines, like you said.
Yeah, I surely did. Ooh. But yeah, it's pretty much like how he is. Anyways, one day, Gordon was resting on a siding. He was very tired. The big express he always pulled had been late, and he had to run as fast as he could to make up for the lost time. He was just going to sleep when Thomas came up in his cheeky way.
Uh-oh.
Beep, 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 beep. Wake up, lazy bones, he whistled. Do some hard work for a change. You can't catch me. And he ran off laughing. Instead of going to sleep again, Gordon thought how he could get back at Thomas.
Sounds like Gordon is gonna make a plan to teach Thomas a lesson.
You might be right, Miku. Let's see what happens next, and we'll find out. One morning, Thomas wouldn't wake up. His driver and fireman couldn't make him start. His fire went out and there was not enough steam. And it was nearly time for the express. The people were waiting, but the coaches weren't ready. At last, Thomas started. Oh dear, he yawned.
Come on,
Said the coaches.
hurry up.
Thomas gave them a real bump and started for the station. Don't dawdle, he grumbled.
Where have you been? Where have you been?
Asked the coaches crossly. Thomas fussed into the station where Gordon was waiting. Boop, boop, boop.
Hurry up, you.
Said Gordon crossly. Beep, beep, beep. Hurry yourself, said cheeky Thomas.
Yes,
Said Gordon.
I will.
And almost before the coaches had stopped moving, Gordon came out of his siding and was coupled to the train. Boop, boop, he whistled.
Get in quickly, please.
So the people got in quickly. The signal went down, the clock struck the hour, the guard waved his green flag, and Gordon was ready to start. Now, Thomas usually pushed behind the big trains to help them start, but he was always uncoupled first, so that when the train was running nicely, he could stop and go back.
Oh boy, here it comes.
This time, he was late, and Gordon started so quickly that they forgot to uncouple Thomas.
I thought that was what was going to happen.
And you were doggone right about it, Miku. Boop, boop, said Gordon. Peep, 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 whistled Thomas.
Come on.
Puffed Gordon to the coaches. Pull harder, puffed Thomas to Gordon. The heavy train slowly began to move out of the station. The train went faster and faster. Too fast for Thomas. He wanted to stop, but he couldn't. Peep, peep, stop, he whistled.
Hurry,
Laughed Gordon in front.
You can't get away,
Laughed the coaches. Poor Thomas was going faster than he ever gone before. He was out of breath, and his wheels hurt him, but he had to go on. I shall never be the same again, he thought sadly. My wheels will be quite worn out. At last, they stopped at a station. Everyone laughed to see Thomas puffing and panting behind. They uncoupled him, put him on the turntable, and then ran him on a siding out of the way.
Well, little Thomas,
Chuckled Gordon as he passed.
now you know what hard work means, don't you?
Poor Thomas couldn't answer. He had no breath. He just puffed slowly away to rest and had a long drink.
The poor engine.
Well, to Gordon, he had it coming to him. He went home very slowly and was careful afterwards never to be cheeky to Gordon again.
Gordon sure gave Thomas a good long and fast run to stretch his wheels.
He sure did, Miku.
So what's our next story, Cameron?
Well, our next story for tonight is Thomas's Train. And this is where he somewhat gets to pull his very own train instead of having to shunt all the time.
What do you mean by that, Cameron?
Well, you see, Miku, Thomas is station pilot in this time period, which basically means he shunts trains for the big engines. Well, basically all the trains for every engine.
Oh, so he worked at the big station during his early days.
That's pretty much what I told you. But he never got to pull his own train. Not once.
Oh, I see. He has his own work nowadays.
Yep, he sure does. But I shouldn't tell you anymore. I don't want to spoil it for you.
Oh, okay. Now, come on, let's get to the story, please.
Right then. Now, Thomas often grumbled because he was not allowed to pull passenger trains. The other engines laughed. You're too impatient, they said. You'd be sure to leave something behind. Rubbish, said Thomas crossly. Just you wait. I'll show you. One night, he and Henry were alone. Henry was ill. The man worked hard, but he didn't get better.
Oh dear, the poor engine.
You know, Miku? That is going to play a key role in Henry's life later in these stories.
Oh, really?
Yep. But let's just get back to what we are reading now. Now, Henry usually pulled the first train in the morning, and Thomas had to get his coaches ready. If Henry is ill, he thought, perhaps I shall pull his train. Thomas ran to find the coaches. Come along, he fussed.
There's plenty of time,
Grumbled the coaches. He took them to the platform and wanted to run round in front at once, but his driver wouldn't let him. Don't be impatient, Thomas, he said. So Thomas waited and waited. The people got in, the guard and station master walked up and down, the porters banged the doors, and still Henry didn't come. Thomas got more and more excited every minute. So Tom Pat came out of his office to see what was the matter, and the guard and station master told him about Henry.
find another engine,
He ordered. There's only Thomas, they said.
You'll have to do it then, Thomas. Be quick now.
So Thomas ran round to the front and backed up to the coaches, ready to start. Don't be impatient, said his driver. Wait until everything's ready. But Thomas was too excited to listen to a word he said.
I smell trouble.
What happened then? No one knows. Perhaps they forgot to couple Thomas to the train. Perhaps Thomas was too impatient to wait till they were ready. Or perhaps his driver pulled a lever by mistake. Anyhow, Thomas started. People shouted and waved at him, but he didn't stop. They're waving because I'm such a splendid engine, he thought importantly. Henry says it's hard to pull trains, but I think it's easy. Hurry, 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 he puffed, pretending to be like Gordon. As he passed the first signal box, he saw the men leaning out, waving and shouting. They're pleased to see me, he thought. They've never seen me pulling a train before. It's nice of them to wave. And he whistled. Beep, beep, thank you, and hurried on.
Oh boy, he doesn't get it, does he?
Not one bit, Miku. But he came to a signal. Danger! Bother, he thought. I must stop. And I was going so nicely, too. What a nuisance signals are. And he blew an angry beep, beep on his whistle. One of the signalmen ran up. Hello, Thomas, he said. What are you doing here? I'm pulling a train, said Thomas proudly. Can't you see? Where are your coaches, then? Thomas looked back. Why, bless me, he said, if we haven't left them behind. Yes, said the signalman. You'd better go back quickly and fetch them. Poor Thomas was so sad that he nearly cried. Cheer up, said his driver. Let's go back quickly and try again.
Poor little blue engine.
Yeah, but it was only a simple mistake. Everyone makes that, right?
Right, Cameron.
Meanwhile, at the station, all the passengers were talking at once. They were telling Sir Tom Hat, the station master, and the guard what a bad railway it was.
Yes.
But when Thomas came back, they saw how sad he was. They couldn't be cross.
Well, that's nice of the passengers to forgive him. He does seem like a young engine after all.
Yes, he was. So they coupled him to the train, and this time he really pulled it. But for a long time afterwards, the other engines laughed at Thomas and said, Look, there's Thomas, who wanted to pull a train, but forgot about the coaches.
Jerks.
Agreed. Now then, on to our next story. Our next story, Miku, is called Thomas and the Freight Cars. Now this is where Thomas really gets to pull his own train.
Oh, really?
With a little help from a friend, that is. Now, Thomas used to grumble in the shed at night. I'm tired of pushing coaches. I want to see the world. The others didn't take much notice, for Thomas was a little engine who talked big.
I'll say.
But one night, Edward came to the shed. He was a kind little engine and felt sorry for Thomas. I've got some freight cars to take home tomorrow, he told him. If you take them instead, I'll push coaches in the yard. Thank you, said Thomas. That will be nice. So, they asked their drivers the next morning, and when they said yes, Thomas ran happily to find the freight cars.
I think this will be an opportunity for him to prove himself.
Now, freight cars are silly and noisy. They talk a lot and don't attend to what they are doing. They don't listen to their engine, and when he stops, they bump into each other screaming,
I think I know what's next.
Whatever is happening?
line is so funny.
I'm glad you like it. But sadly, and I'm sorry to say, they played tricks on an engine who is not used to them.
Oh,
Now, Edward knew all about freight cars. He warned Thomas to be careful, but Thomas was too excited to listen.
oh boy, here we go again.
The switchman fastened the coupling, and when the signal dropped, Thomas was ready. The guard blew his whistle. Peep, peep, answered Thomas and started off, but the freight cars weren't ready. Oh! They screamed as their couplings tightened.
Wait, Thomas, wait!
But Thomas wouldn't wait. Come on! He puffed, and the freight cars grumbled slowly out of the siding onto the main line. Thomas was happy. Come along, he puffed.
All right, don't fuss. All right, don't fuss.
Grumbled the freight cars. They clattered through stations and rumbled over bridges. Thomas whistled. Beep, beep, as they rushed through the tunnel in which Henry had been shut up.
You know, I think they should call it Henry's Tunnel, since it sounds like a historic landmark.
Oh, it's already called Henry's Tunnel. Believe me, it is.
Really? Interesting.
Anyways, then they came to the top of the hill, where Gordon had gotten stuck. And if you're gonna ask, yes, it's called Gordon's Hill, Miku.
So right through me.
Yep. Now, you already know how it's hard to get up the hill, right, Miku?
Yes, sir?
Well, there's another problem that you're gonna find out about this hill as well.
Oh,
Steady now, steady, warned the driver, and he shut off steam and began to put on the brakes.
We're stopping,
Called Thomas.
No.
Entered the freight cars and bumped into each other.
Go on.
And before his driver could stop them, they had pushed Thomas down the hill and were rattling and laughing behind him.
oh no.
And poor Thomas tried hard to stop them from making him go too fast.
Stop pushing, he hissed.
But the freight cars would not stop.
Go on.
They giggled in their silly way. He was glad when they got to the bottom. Then he saw the place where they had to stop.
Oh dear, what shall I do?
They rattled straight through the station, and luckily the line was clear as they swerved into the freight yard. Oh! Groaned Thomas as his brakes held fast and he skidded along the rails.
I must stop.
And he shut his eyes tight. And when he opened them, he saw he had stopped just in front of the buffers.
Oh, that's a relief. Thank goodness he stopped in time.
And there, watching him, was Sir Topham Hatt.
Oh,
What you doing here, Thomas?
He asked sternly.
I've brought Edward's freight cars.
Thomas answered.
Why did you come so fast?
I didn't mean to. I was pushed.
Said Thomas sadly.
Haven't you pulled freight cars before?
No.
Then you have a lot to learn about freight cars, little Thomas. They are silly things and must be kept in their place. After pushing them about here for a few weeks, you'll know almost as much about them as Edward. Then you'll be a really useful engine.
well, at least he got what he wanted, right?
Yes, he did. But it came at a cost nonetheless. Well, at least he didn't get into serious trouble.
Yeah.
Now then, let's get on to our last story for tonight, Miku. Now this story is called Thomas and the Breakdown Train. Now in this story, Thomas actually gets to become a hero.
Is that so?
Yep. And there's also a new character introduction, as well as something that we've discussed about earlier this evening. About his work, shall we say?
Oh boy, I can't wait to see what happens.
Now, every day Sir Topham Hatt came to the station to catch his train, and he always said,
Hello.
to Thomas. There were lots of freight cars in the yard. Different ones came in every day, and Thomas had to push and pull them into their right places. He worked hard. He knew now that he wasn't so clever as he had thought.
Now that's good to hear.
Besides, Sir Topham Hatt had been good to him, and he wanted to learn all about freight cars, so he could be a really useful engine. But on a siding by themselves were some freight cars that Thomas was told he mustn't touch.
Oh?
There was a small coach, some flatbed trucks, and two queer things his driver called cranes. "That's the breakdown train," he said. "When there's an accident, the workmen get into the coach, and the engine takes them quickly to help the hurt people, and to clear and mend the line. The cranes are for lifting heavy things like engines and coaches and freight cars."
Interesting.
Now one day, Thomas was in the yard when he heard an engine whistling, "Help! Help!" and a goods train came rushing through much too fast.
Oh my.
Now the engine, a new one called James, was frightened. His brake blocks were on fire, and smoke and sparks streamed out on each side.
Holy cow.
They're pushing me! They're pushing me!
He panted.
On!
Laughed the freight cars.
Help! Help!
Yelled poor James as he disappeared under a bridge.
The poor engine.
"I'd like to teach those freight cars a lesson," said Thomas the tank engine. Presently, a bell rang in the signal box, and a man came running. "James is off the line! The breakdown train, quickly!" he shouted. So Thomas was coupled on. The workmen jumped into their coach, and they went off. Thomas worked his hardest. "Hurry, hurry, hurry!" he puffed. And this time he wasn't pretending to be like Gordon. He really meant it. "Bother those freight cars and their tricks," he thought. "I hope poor James isn't hurt."
I hope so too.
They found James and the freight cars at a bend in the line. The brake van and the last few freight cars were on the rails, but the front ones, however, were piled in a heap. James was in a field with a cow looking at him, and his driver and fireman were feeling him all over to see if he was hurt. "Never mind, James," they said. "It wasn't your fault. It was those wooden brakes they gave you. We always said they were no good."
So that's why his brakes were on fire. Why in the world would someone think it was a good idea to put wooden brakes on an engine like him?
Who knows? Probably because they thought it tested better or something.
Possibly.
Thomas pushed the breakdown train alongside. Then he pulled the unhurt freight cars out of the way.
Oh dear! Oh dear!
They groaned. "Serves you right! Serves you right!" puffed Thomas crossly. When the men put other freight cars on the line, he pulled them away too. He was hard at work, puffing backwards and forwards all the afternoon. "This'll teach you a lesson, this'll teach you a lesson," he told the freight cars. And they answered,
Yes, it will! Yes, it will!
in a sad, groaning, creaky sort of voice. They left the broken freight cars and mended the line. Then, with the two cranes, they put James back on the rails. He tried to move, but he couldn't, so Thomas helped him back to the shed. Sir Tom Hat was waiting anxiously for them.
Well, Thomas,
He said kindly.
I've heard all about it, and I'm very pleased with you. You are a really useful engine. James shall have some proper brakes and a new coat of paint. And you
"And this is Thomas's reward."
shall have a branch line all to yourself.
Wonderful.
"Oh, sir," said Thomas happily.
That sounds like the most splendid reward for a heroic engine like Thomas.
"Indeed it is, Miku." And now Thomas is as happy as can be. He has a branch line all to himself and puffs proudly backwards and forwards with his two coaches all day. He is never lonely, because there is always some engine to talk to at the junction. Edward and Henry stop quite often and tell him the news. Gordon is always in a hurry and does not stop, but he never forgets to say boop boop to little Thomas, and Thomas always whistles beep beep in return. The end.
Now those stories were by far my favorite.
Well, I'm glad you liked them. And now, I think it's time to get some shut-eye.
Yeah, I'm quite tired now. Good night, Cameron.
Good night, my blue-haired angel. See you in the morning.